Welcome back to the channel, and thank you so much for watching. If you're new, be sure to hit a like, comment, and subscribe. In 2022-2023, I rolled out a video talking about Mabinogi and the state of the game and whether or not you should play. Now, we're going to be talking about if you should play Mabinogi in 2024. We're going to be going over the soundtrack, the gameplay. Think of it as like a little review for this year. Now, Mabinogi has a lot of updates, a lot of events, and there is some exciting things that the future may hold for Mabinogi. Now, for example, Unreal Engine. This game's getting an Unreal Engine update, and does it ever look good? Like, look at this. Well, we're seeing the same thing, and still has all its charm. It looks good. This is like the first time I'm actually like taking a deep look at it. And like just the clothing alone, the detail, the movement, all of it, I really like it. And the fact that this old game's getting ported over to Unreal Engine actually says a lot. So this alone, if you're thinking about playing Mabinogi and you're not ready to commit to the way it feels or how it's aged, I would definitely wait for this. But they did mention that all of the character progress is going to carry over. So if you want to jump in early before the new wave of people come in and level up your character and get him or her nice and strong, this is your chance. The first thing we're going to be talking about today is the storyline in Mabinogi. Now, Mabinogi's always had a main storyline for you to follow. I mean, outside of the open beta and closed beta. But other than that, Mabinogi has always had a storyline for you to follow. It is a deep and detailed story, and it is long. Now, they're separated by chapters and generations, but when you start the game, you're going to kick off right into your first story quests once you get outside the tutorial. Now, if you're confused how an MMO has a main storyline, think of it as almost like Final Fantasy XIV. Now, it will lead you to new dungeons, new areas, it will help you unlock new content, and even new skills. Some really cool skills that will let you transform. Think of it as kind of like Devil May Cry, where you can transform into that really cool demon form. You can get skills like that that will let you transform into something really cool. Now, there's a couple of them, so I won't spoil them. I'll let you experience that yourself, but it's really cool. Now, it's hard to talk about the story without spoiling too much, but essentially, to me, there is two kind of like separate branches. The first half of the story, like the first branch, has such a great cast of characters, and this has to do with the goddess that watches over the world and the soul stream, and it's a lot. I can't cover all of it. Now, the second half deals with you joining this group of knights, and that's all I can say without spoiling too much, but it's actually such a great storyline, and it's going to take you some time to beat it, but it's worth it. It's really good. Now, thinking about this, the one thing I did not do in my Mabinogi in 2023 is give ratings for these sections of the game, and since I want to follow more of a review style, I'm going to have to give the overall story for Mabinogi an 8. Now, the first half, the first branch, like I mentioned, I would give it a solid 10. And the second half, I would give it a solid 8. But as a whole, the story is really good, and I think you should definitely play through it. And it's going to help you progress through the world of Aaron. Plus, there's like some really dope boss fights. I just had to say that. Now, when it comes to gameplay and skills, there is so much to talk about when it comes to Mabinogi. For example, you can be a blacksmith, an archer, a mage, a chain slasher. You can even just tailor clothes all day if you want to. Mabinogi is unique in the sense where you are not tied to doing one thing. The game will ask you to pick a class at the start, but that just gives you increased rate at leveling up that skill, or the skills tied to that class that you pick. But at any point, anytime, you can equip a bow, you can equip a staff, and start doing archery or magic or blacksmithing. You're not locked to one certain thing. So when it comes to gameplay, there's a lot you can do. Like I said, you can be a blacksmith. So you're gonna spend the day mining, getting ore from dungeons. Or you're gonna spend the day just cooking, making food so that way you get buffs and you can give your friends food. If you sit at a campfire, you can make a campfire, but first you gotta chop the wood down to get the wood to make the campfire. And then when you're sitting at the campfire, you can all sit down and share food together. So when it comes to the nuances of gameplay and skills, there's so much to do in Mabinogi that it would almost require a whole video to dedicate. But we're going to talk about the most important things when it comes to Mabinogi, and it's its combat. Now, like any other MMO, Mabinogi has a hotbar that you can assign skills to. Now, from here, the combat gets a little bit different from your usual MMO. Early game Mabinogi utilizes a rock, paper, scissors type combat. This is particularly true if you're using a melee weapon. So the three major skills are going to pop up, enemies can use them as well. So for example, an enemy's going to throw up rock, you're going to use paper to beat them. And it's not actually called rock, a little disclaimer. And once you start learning other skills such as magic, ninja skills, fighter skills, chain slashing skills, gunslinger skills, you'll be able to interrupt the flow of the rock, paper, scissors and just absolutely destroy an enemy, kind of like what you're seeing on screen. So the combat can get pretty in depth. There's buffs, debuffs, all that kind of stuff. But early game, you're going to be dealing a lot with the rock, paper, scissors mechanic. Now, another thing you can do is also get pets. So pets will actually be of use. So you can use them in combat to also disrupt the flow of the rock, paper, scissors, and they can also be used to pull aggro from yourself. So if you're soloing content or you're in a dungeon with a bunch of friends and there's a lot of monsters, you can summon a pet and send the pet to fight the monsters and, just kind of kick back. You're actually able to level up your pet and a lot more, but that's mid-game, late game. It's a lot to it, but it's really fun. If I had to give Mabinogi's gameplay loop a rating, this one's going to be kind of hard because early game and mid game, it flows really well. It feels really good. But when you get to end game and you need to start grinding out materials to use certain skills, i.e. crafting, blacksmithing, that type of thing, the drop rates are extremely low. And you're going to spend a lot of time grinding to never see the item in your life. So if I had to give an honest rating of the gameplay loop, I would give it a solid 6.5. That said, combat does feel really good, and you can do things like play music, you can do things like commerce where you're just traveling and selling things to other towns. You can do jousting tournaments, you can also do fashion shows. So because of that, I gave it a 6.5, but the core gameplay loop of Mabinogi when it comes down to it is its combat and trying to get items to better yourself, and that's where it kind of falls flat for me. So some of the things we're going to talk about in this section are how often there's updates, how often there's events, and how often does the company interact with the community, how often does the company reach out about the game, can you find updates about it, all that stuff, because honestly, the company being transparent with the community is honestly such a big thing when it comes to MMOs, because it lets you know they care, they're trying to make the game better, and they value your time. So when it comes to events, Mabinogi has a plethora of events, like so many. Every week there's going to be an event. You're going to be doing something that's related to the event. There's never a time where there is no active event running. Now these range from just logging in. Sometimes Mabinogi has like 3 or 4 events running at the same time, and one of them will be like an event where you just log in and stay logged in for an hour and you'll get stuff. You can redeem your time spent in the game for items, which is really, really cool. because when you play the game, you're just gonna get random cool stuff. And then some other times they have events that lead you to whole new locations, such as Doki Doki Island. Now, I'm mentioning this event just because it brings you to a whole new location. It's one that people talk about a lot, and it was actually a pretty cool event. For example, you get a new area, you get to earn some cool things, and it's like a collaborative event. So it's cool. Sometimes there's events like that. Sometimes it's just doing part-time jobs, or sometimes it's traveling to the moon. Now, when it comes to events, I think Mabinogi gets it right. And there's always something for you to do, and it makes you feel like even if you've done everything, there's still something you can do to get cool stuff, even if it's just cosmetic. So in terms of events, Mabinogi is going to get an 8 for this, just because sometimes there's a point where there's, no actual interactive events, and it's just log in for an hour every day. So they tend to lean on that one because it encourages player retention, people logging in, and it kind of inflates the numbers for Mabinogi. I'm not hating on them for it. It is what it is. But I would like more interactive events. But sometimes it's nice to have little AFK events because I can do the grinding I want to do and not have to worry about missing an event because I want to get stronger. Now, when it comes to updates and company support, Mabinogi is actually very good on this front. The team that runs Mabinogi, especially on the NA side, they do a great job. They're very transparent and open, and they'll actually help you when it comes to hosting your own community events. The community manager, RC, also does live streams monthly to give you a rundown of potential updates along the way, a sneak peek at stuff, as well as giveaways during these live streams. So you can always check in monthly with the community manager and see what's going on. So since there is monthly live streams giving sneak peek at things, there is updates monthly, whether it's quality of life, a new improvement on something, a new update, and then there's usually a major update every 6 months to a year. So I think that's pretty good. Like recently they just rolled out new classes that are so OP, but they're so fun to play. Because of how the NA team handles communication, reaching out to the player base, keeping us informed, as well as the monthly updates, whether it's just quality of life or even a major update, I think this part of the review, they deserve a solid 10 out of 10. Keep up the great work, and Unreal Engine is just the tip of the iceberg for how well this game's gonna do whenever that rolls out. So, do I think you should play Mabinogi in 2024? Absolutely. It is one of a kind when it comes to being an MMO and allowing you to do almost anything that you want to do in a game. You can exclusively just focus on making your character and exploring the fashion world, or even just socializing with people. And I think that's what makes Mabinogi so special, is like the charm that it has and the freedom to do anything that you want. I think you should definitely check it out. Early game, the game is super fun. Mid game, the game's super fun. End game will take you a really long time to get there. There is an option to kind of speed your way through the game, and they added that so new players can actually experience content with some of the longer players that have been there. And a lot of people hate that, but a lot of people like it, and the community's super friendly. So when you join Mabinogi, if you ask anybody for help on the street, they'll help you, and they'll probably even give you some free gear if that's what you want. There's a reason why I've came back to this game over and over and over for the last 15 years. I think it's been, which is crazy to think about, because there's not too many games that keep my attention like that. And any issues I've had with the game in the past, they fixed over time. They're always looking to see how the community plays the game, how they interact with the game, and always tweaking things and adjusting things. And at the end of the day, it is a bit of a gacha game. So be prepared for that. And ultimately, if you want to stick free to play, stay free to play, you can do that. The game gives you tons and tons and tons of free stuff, tons of free pets. You can get pets through events. So even though you only get 2 or 3 free pets from the start of the game, you get a bunch from events. And I just can't get over how this game has absolutely captured my attention over the years and how little people play it. The population is pretty decent. There could be more people, and I think that's why they decided to make the shift to Unreal Engine, among many other reasons. But I think this game is truly something special and is definitely worth your time in 2024. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching, and I appreciate you supporting my channel over the last year or two. And if you're new, be sure to hit the like, comment, and subscribe. And hopefully I'll see you in Mabinogi and around on my channel. And I hope you have a great 2024. And I'll see you guys next year for Should You Play Mabinogi in 2025. Take care.